As an English language learner, I was always intrigued by one word, fluency. So I always used to imagine that one day I will become fluent in English, and it literally used to fill me with enthusiasm, and I used to feel extremely mesmerizing just by imagining that one day I will be able to communicate with anybody in English at any given time, and I will be able to speak English fluently in front of everybody. And this is a kind of feeling most of the language learner can relate it to themselves, because if you are someone who has been trying to learn English or any other language, then you must have thought to become fluent in English. But the question is what it takes to become fluent in English, and how much time we should be spending to learn any language so that we can speak English fluently, or we can speak that language fluently. In the beginning, I used to think that if I have to become fluent in English or in any other language, then I will have to spend enough time with the language. And by saying enough time with the language, I mean if I will be putting a lot of input, then only I will be able to produce output. By the way, this is fact, but at that time my mindset was completely different, because I used to think that if I would be studying English for hours, or if I would be sitting in front of books in which is available in English, then only I will be able to speak English fluently. Or if I will be watching videos for whole day, then only I will be able to speak English fluently. So that kind of mindset I had. And that's why I used to study English for crazy amount of time. There was a time when I used to study English for 7 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. I mean, this is the amount of time I used to put just to learn this language. But we all know that whatever you do excessively, it will definitely affect you negatively. So it happened to me too. I used to feel extremely burnt out. I used to feel extremely overwhelming, and it used to make me feel that I don't have energy anymore, and I was done with that. But as I mentioned in many of my videos, that my goal was enough to motivate me. By the way, it was something which was motivating me, it's true, but it was threatening me many times. So even when I didn't study, if I didn't want to study because I was extremely overwhelmed, it used to threaten me that if I don't study, then what will happen? So that kind of mindset I had built up me at that moment. But then I realized that it's extremely important to have routine, because when you have a routine which is actually guiding you, that when you have to study intensely and when you have to take breaks, it's extremely important, because then only you will be able to meet your expectation and you will be able to complete your task on time. But if you are not having any routine and you are studying without having any plan, then it will make you feel burnt out and you may not want to study again. So that's why I decided to make a video where I will be talking about a routine which can help you to speak English fluently in year 2024. By the way, this is a routine which will not only for you, but I will also be following this routine because I really want to have one routine, because many times I watch many videos like for hours without having realized. Many times I study books for crazy amount of time without having realized. So it's extremely important to set routine so that I can be productive and I will not feel overwhelmed and not feel burnt out just by studying this one particular language. This routine will consume only 1 hour of your day, and I think it's pretty good amount of time, because if you are spending 1 hour every single day, then you will definitely be able to improve your English and you will be able to speak English fluently. So by the way, this is a routine which is created by me according to my convenience. So if you want to do any sort of modification with it, then you can do it according to your convenience. And there's one thing I would like to tell you, that if you are occupying 1 hour of your day, then you will be following all the steps, like all 4 steps of learning any language, be it reading, writing, speaking and listening. So you will be following all 4 steps. So let's get into it, that how you are supposed to follow these steps and how much time you are supposed to follow every single step. step. So the first thing you are supposed to do in order to improve your English is to listen or watch. By the way, it's completely up to you to decide which one you would like to follow. If you are someone who learn things just by listening to podcast or listening to music, then you can do it. But if you are a kind of person who learns things just by watching movies or just by watching YouTube videos, then you can follow this step. But make sure that you are doing it actively, because you have to make your ears be comfortable with sounds. Because whenever we are trying to learn any language, it's extremely important to be comfortable with sound so that we can easily produce output, which is speaking. Now, when it comes to how much time you should be following this one step, then since we have 60 minutes to complete this task and to complete this routine, then I decided to devote 20 minutes of our time to listening, because listening is extremely important. If you are being comfortable with sounds, then you will easily be able to produce, as I already mentioned. So you have to spend enough time with listening or watching, whatever you want to do. Now, when it comes to how you are supposed to do, it's completely up to you to observe things that when you will be able to find time to listen something. But I can give my example to you to find a clarity that when you are supposed to follow this one step. Usually I prefer listening while walking, because I have this habit to walk a lot, especially right after having my meal. So whenever I have to walk, I just try to listen at that moment so that I can multitask. Because if I am able to use that time productively, then it's better for me, because then I will be able to save my time. Next thing you can do is to listen to podcast while working in the kitchen. So if you are someone who works in the kitchen too much, like if you spend enough time in the kitchen, then you can listen to any podcast at that moment. Like if you are chopping any vegetable, or if you are making a dough for chapati, then you can listen to podcast, because this is something I love doing, because in that way I'm just getting my task done, and apart from that I'm listening to podcast too, which is helping me to improve my English. So the next thing I do is to listen while commuting. Whenever I am taking public transport, or if I am taking my footsteps, then I try to listen, because many times I go to attend my class and I have nothing to do at that moment. So I try to use that time productively. So in this way you can find out, you can observe that when you will be able to make time to spend on listening, because it's extremely important. If you have to speak English fluently, then you will have to spend enough time with the language. And by saying enough time with the language, I mean you will have to listen as much as you can. So that's how you can spend your time productively and complete your task. So the next thing you are supposed to do in order to improve your English is to read. And by saying read, I do not mean that you only have to read books, because you have many options. You can read whatever you want, be it article, blog, newspaper, whatever is available in front of you. So you can read that. And I am recommending you to read as much as you can, because it will help you to enhance your vocabulary, your phrasal verbs, and many things. It will also help you to understand how this sentence is being structured. It will help you a lot to get better at speaking, because the more you realize things, the more you observe the sentence, the better your speaking skill will become. Now, when it comes to how much time you are supposed to devote to reading, I would recommend you to read just for 15 minutes, not more than that, not less than that. Because if you will be reading less than 15 minutes, then probably you may not get effective result. And if you are reading more than 15 minutes, then you may get bored, because if you are someone who doesn't have the habit of reading book, then you may get bored easily, because many people don't like reading because they think it's quite monotonous. By the way, it is not. But if you are trying to build the habit, then start with reading just for 15 minutes. Now, when it comes to when you have to read, I personally prefer reading in the morning, because at that time I just feel refreshed, and I feel that whatever I will be studying, whatever I will be reading, it will get fixed in my mind and I will be able to focus more. So if you are someone who gets time in the evening, then it's completely up to you, but you will have to find out when you will be able to read books or whatever you want to read. Next step is speaking. Speaking is extremely important. I can't emphasize how important it is, because I have already talked about the importance of speaking, because the more you speak, the better your tongue will become at uttering words and your tongue will become comfortable with the language. So it's extremely important. You can't neglect it. Even though if you are speaking broken English, if you are making mistakes, that's all right. It doesn't matter, because as long as you are speaking, as long as you are trying your level best to do something, doesn't matter how many mistakes you are making. When it comes to with whom you will be practicing your speaking English, you don't need to worry about it, because I have made a separate video where I talked about free apps which can help you to find a partner with whom you can practice your speaking skill in English. By the way, if you are someone who doesn't have enough confidence right now and you are extremely shy and you think that you will not be able to communicate with others, then you don't need to worry about it. You can practice speaking just by yourself. By the way, many people think that you can't improve your English just by yourself, or you will not be able to improve your English alone. But I don't really agree with this statement, because I have this personal experience to improve my English just by myself. There was a time when I didn't have confidence to speak to anybody in English. So I used to speak just by myself, sometimes in front of mirror, sometimes in front of camera. So you can follow any of these tactics and improve your English just by yourself. And once you have built up a little bit of confidence, then you can communicate with others and boost your confidence while speaking in English. When it comes to when you will be practicing this one step, it's completely up to you when you get free time. I personally get free time in the evening. So at that time, I try to use any app to have conversation with others. Or if I don't connect with others, then I try to talk to myself. I pick up any topic and just start elaborating that topic in my own words so that I can improve my speaking English. Now, 55 minutes is already occupied by all these three steps. So we have 5 minutes left. So what you are going to do in those 5 minutes, you have to start writing whatever you want. Now you may be thinking that I should be skipping this step. By the way, it's completely up to you. If you want to skip it, then it's up to you. But I would highly recommend you to use that time and improve your writing skill. Because when it comes to speaking, reading, listening, everything has its own place, everything has its own importance. But when it comes to writing skill, it has its own importance. So nothing can replace writing skill. By the way, you don't need to worry about completing the entire page, because even though if you could complete just 5 lines, that's all right. Because once you have built the habit of writing something, it will help you a lot to releases your energy and your frustration, whatever you have had in your mind. So it will help you to improve your English faster, and it will also help you to become better at speaking. Because many times we can't speak something, but we can write about things. So it will help you to utter your words easily. So in this way, you will be able to complete this task without pressurizing yourself to study or to listen or to speak or follow to this one or to that one. So if you're someone who is extremely pressed for time and you feel that you don't have enough time to follow every single step, then you can follow this routine to improve your English so that you can speak English fluently in year 2024. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful and enjoyed watching this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye bye.